All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of Navarra Confidencial and of this emission, the podcast En Orden, Libertad. My name is Ugo Stornaiolo S. I am your host, and today is joining me Wojciech Jarosiński, who is a very prestigious lawyer here in Poland and who has agreed to come talk to me and come talk with me today. So, welcome, Wojciech.
Hello, Ugo. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
All right. Could you help us with a little introduction of yourself so that our audience can know more about you?
Of course, happy to. As you said, yes, I'm an advocate. I'm admitted to practice in Poland. I went to law school here in Poland and then went to a law school in the United States at Columbus School of Law, which is part of Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C., where I did my LLM. And I returned to Poland and started to work from the very beginning in new technology sector. At my law firm, dispute resolution practice. That's where I practiced most during my career and where I was recognized by different bodies as a good litigator, as a person who can actually resolve disputes for my clients.
Additionally to your lawyering experience, you also do other things. You run like an exploration cooperative. So that's quite interesting because I don't really see how can someone be a lawyer and on the side be also an adventurer. So if you can tell us a little bit about that, that would be great.
Of course. Being a lawyer, being an advocate, especially in dispute resolution, puts you in a lot of stressful situations, and you look into human problems. So you just have to find some way to recharge your batteries. And I found that way in activities I liked from the very beginning, from as far as I can remember. It's a long time ago. Right after completing my legal education, I started a company together with my great friend, great photographer, Vladimir Donkov. We started a company that was offering photography expeditions to far corners of the world to small groups of people. We ran that company, Vertical Shoot Expeditions, for a couple of years. Then figure out that what we love probably should not bring us money. And we converted that idea into a cooperative of like-minded people who like to go on adventures in strange parts of the world and take photos, document also the change, the impact of humans on the nature. And we call ourselves Expedition Cooperative. We research and document and discover many things related to nature.
All right. Well, that's definitely an introduction, especially because we have this stereotype of thinking of lawyers as very serious, very urban type of people, and we don't really think of adventurers and explorers as people who are like more in touch with like a wild side and like a more physical side. So you don't usually get to mix the two. In any case, given that you are a lawyer with years of practice here in Poland, and you know pretty much how the whole sphere, the whole context of like the legal context in Poland goes, I want to ask you a few general questions about like what's like to practice law in Poland, what's like to be a legal professional in the country, because many people don't really know about that, and especially in my case, I know about how it works in Latin America, how it works in the United States. But Eastern Europe tends to be, Eastern Central Europe tends to be very different as far as I can know from my own experience.
Wait. If you ask the question, there was a little break in the connection, so I would have to ask you to repeat it. Sorry for that.
All right. So the question is pretty much if you could explain to us a little bit about the context of legal practice in Poland and Central Europe, especially given your experience?
Of course, happy to. So practice of law in Poland, we're talking about practicing law in English, right? So that has some meaning attributed to the words, to that phrase, practice of law. And that meaning is not actually comparable to how we approach practicing law in Poland, what the practice of law is. Because basically, almost anybody can offer legal services in Poland. Offering legal services is only partially regulated. So for instance, somebody that just completed their legal education, or even not, can approach a client and say, I will help you in legal matters. And unlike in the United States, that will not be prohibited. What is limited in Poland is acting in front of the courts, certain matters, and being part of legal profession, the prestigious part of being legal profession. So in order to practice law in the meaning how we often understand it when we speak about like American practice of law or practicing law in other jurisdictions, we have to go through university education that lasts for 5 years. And then you have to pass entry exam to the bar. However, unlike the Americans, after passing of that first exam, you only begin your apprenticeship, which lasts 3 years. And at the end of that apprenticeship period, you have the final exam. And once you're through, you're licensed to practice law in more like American meaning. So basically you can do whatever you want. And there are two legal professions that are like those lawyers you can see in the movies, those who advise clients. These are advocates. I'm an advocate. And legal advisors. Currently, the difference between those two professions is hardly visible, except maybe in the color of the robe when they appear in the courts. But like in practical terms, the scope of the advice they can offer to the clients is fairly the same. Historically, those professions were different. Legal advisors were those who were helping companies, often working internally as in-house lawyers, and advocates were those who were running their own law firms and advising clients independently from their employment. Up to today, advocates cannot work as employees, while legal advisors can. So once you have those professional qualifications, you can work in either as a solo practitioner or join one of the law firms. And law firms in Poland are more like the continental law firms. In the continental Europe, they are not those huge law firms that like where hundreds of lawyers work. When you exceed 100 lawyers, you're already considered a big law firm in Poland. And in Poland, you can either work in a couple of well-established Polish law firms of that respectable size, or join one of the international names that have their offices in Poland. Was that helpful? Does that answer your question?
It was fairly helpful. But in general, I get to think Poland is quite a rising country when it comes to investments and when it comes to having a presence in the global economy. Not many people know about Poland up to this day, especially people from the other side of like the world. I talk about like the Spanish-speaking world because that's my context. So how could you try to introduce getting to invest in Poland as a lawyer? What would be your elevator pitch for someone who thinks, oh, I like Poland. What's like to invest in that country?
Should I start with the fact that pierogi are an awesome food available only in Poland, or
Yeah,
probably some can argue that not only in Poland.
that's probably the best argument.
No, obviously Poland is a great country to do the investment. It's within a robust legal structure of European Union. It's well grounded within the European Union framework. So once you start working in Poland, once you establish your legal presence in Poland, you get access to the entire European Union markets. And Poland is located in an excellent place. It's well connected with every country of European Union, and also has exposure to the east, to the opportunities that arise on the beyond the eastern border of the European Union that can be vast, and especially with the rebuilding of Ukraine that hopefully will commence soon, will grow even stronger in terms of opportunities to invest. And Polish people are open-minded. They are very welcoming to foreign investors. Infrastructure in the country is great. People are well educated. Everybody speaks English, and mostly the administration is open to support foreigners. For instance, at my law firm, I'm employing a JD graduate from Texas, and his recollection from visiting different administrative offices in Poland is that due to his strong American accent, when he speaks in Polish, he is always welcomed and assisted with all the needs that he has.
All right. So, in principle, Poland could be a better destination than other countries in the European Union for people who are completely foreign to like investing in Europe and to getting to, establish a legal presence in Europe, especially because maybe France, Germany, they tend to be too popular, and other countries they are not as stable as Poland. I can think of Spain or Italy, maybe. So, but what do you think makes Poland so special, especially in the last like 10 years or so? What changed in Poland? Because Poland used to be a very like close country, at least until they joined the European Union.
Oh, I believe we're never closed. For a couple of years after the Second World War, we were forced into a situation where we had to close our borders. But right after, at the beginning of 90s, we became very open country, inviting everybody. But we had to catch up. We had to catch up a lot in terms of economy, in terms of legal structure, in terms of certain standards of operation. But we're never this kind of wild country without proper methodology, how to create infrastructure, how to build buildings to make them safe and well standing, how to do science or educate people. We always had that in that country, but for many years, when the West, so-called West, was developing quickly, we were behind the Iron Curtain, forced into slower pace of development. But we caught up. We're very quick in doing so, and joining European Union in 2004 sped up everything, and the country became a great economy. I think it's actually a great mix of northern and southern Europe. Poland, it has robust standards. Everything is well organized here, but that would be something like for a feature typical for the northern countries, right? That everything is well organized, structured, and well oiled. But at the same time, we have a bit of this southern attitude to be more relaxed often, and be open to jokes and having good time. So that, I think that would be the feature of Polish society, that it's somewhere in between. Being well organized and also being a bit relaxed.
But do you think this particular mix in Polish culture that makes things to be very orderly and at the same time very relaxed also permeates into the legal culture, that courts, lawyers, the administration tends to be as organized as it is relaxed?
I cannot think about a country which society wouldn't complain about the courts and administration.
Yeah, that's true.
And of course,
That's completely true.
Poland is not an exception. And was recently discussing with one of the C-level managers at one of the companies why courts are so slow, why nothing is happening, and he gave that example of the doctor that he's visiting that is so quick that he can always give him a call. So ask him, hey, but come on, is that a doctor from one of the public? Is GP from one of the public hospitals? And he was, no, of course not. I have like my private medical care. And I think that answers a lot about the court system. I mean, the court system is for everyone, for every citizen of Poland, and even not citizens of Poland. For everybody who has their quarrel in Poland. And that court system, therefore, must be open to everyone and cater to everybody's needs. And if you're looking for VIP service, probably the public court is not what you should be looking for, because it's actually has an offering to everyone. So that offering cannot be on VIP quality. If you are a CEO of a big company and want to have a VIP service, why not pay extra premium for arbitration? It will get your case resolved in no time, and you will receive the treatment you want to receive. Why complain that the court system is, for instance, slow? Take the matters into your own hands and resolve your matter in a way that you want to have it resolved.
Well, speaking of, I mean, you mentioned that arbitration is usually faster and more efficient than the local court system. That's actually true in almost every country. What's the state of arbitration and of alternative means of dispute resolution in Poland? Because, well, we know at least Latin America tends to have a very similar culture to Poland, both in legal matters and in society itself. So I wanted to see if it was somewhat similar here in Poland. Arbitration is usually faster, more effective, more efficient, more business friendly. So I wanted to know what's your take on that, especially given that I think you have plenty of experience in arbitration.
I have some, yes. Arbitration exists in Poland, and we in Poland we use all kinds of arbitration. It's well received by the courts. It's difficult to challenge arbitration award in Poland, almost impossible unless you are in very special conditions where the justice was not properly delivered by the arbitration court, but that doesn't happen often. And in Poland, you can get your case resolved under the procedural rules of international arbitration centers, or basically seek administration of your case by those international arbitration centers. But you can also use some of the local arbitration centers. There are two prominent ones that operate in Warsaw and offer high quality service that is comparable to some of the international services, arbitration centers that you can use under your contract. That's the arbitration. Mediation is becoming a big thing in Poland as well. Parties try to reach settlements without going to the court, without necessarily running their case in court. And I'm talking about disputes between companies. Unfortunately, I have no experience in, for instance, family courts or in the matters of other matters of people who basically have to resolve their disputes. I'm talking here about companies and corporations which have to resolve controversies between them. And I think that there is a growing understanding that spending years in a court may not be that very effective way to resolve a problem, and arriving at a conclusion of the matter in a more amicable way can lead to better economical outcomes. There is a number of great mediators in Poland that can help parties to guide them through their conflict and help them understand their interests and help them figure out how to address those interests in a way that enables settlement. So in summary, alternative dispute resolutions are well. Practitioners are also inclined to use them, and I'm looking optimistic on the future of alternative dispute resolution in Poland.
For someone who comes from outside of Poland, you particularly deal with American clients, but let's say someone from Latin America, someone from a French-speaking country, I wouldn't think that there might be many African investors, but there are always cases. I actually met some the last few weeks. But in any case, for anyone who is foreign to Poland, do you think that the right way to solve any of their issues, if they're investing here, would be to go to arbitration, right? It would be easier for them. But
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. But when it comes to the actual language, how do you deal with that? Because I mean, in Hispanic America, we can all do this in Spanish. We don't have like those different languages from Mexico to Argentina. So we have like that advantage, which many people don't really tend to consider. But Poland has a very distinct language. And when you do international business, how do you do? I mean, people speak English. Of course, we're speaking English, you and I. I mean, you have French investors, you have Spanish investors, you have German investors. What language do you use to sort out stuff with them?
Obviously, yes. It's a matter of fact that Polish language is not the most user-friendly language in the world. Thankfully, as I said at the very beginning, most of Poles speak English and they speak good English. And I think actually using a language which is not your native language in resolving dispute, when both parties' language that they apply for the dispute is not their native language, that actually makes the playing field more leveled. I often have arbitrations in English. It's not a challenge and not an issue to find arbitrators which you would appoint that speak good English, fluent English, also at the level necessary to resolve a case. If there was somebody coming from another jurisdiction, whether their native language or was English or not, I would recommend including in the arbitration clause a sentence saying that the matter will be resolved in English language.
Well, speaking again of arbitration, you previously disclosed that for most matters, when it comes going to court in Poland, you needed to be an actual licensed attorney or like an advocate or legal advisor. That happens in the same fashion for arbitration. Like only licensed lawyers can practice in arbitration or in mediation. Or is that more open to other legal professionals?
So with the courts and being licensed lawyer, that is not entirely true. But let's keep it as a golden rule that if you want to represent, or the rule of thumb, that if you want to represent the client, the court, it's better to be advocate of legal advice. There are certain exceptions, but getting into them would make my history very boring. So I will spare you. That's in arbitration. That's not necessary.
Oh,
so basically, it's more open for non-licensed lawyers.
Fascinating. I mean, in general, in Latin America, we're more restricted about that. It happens that, of course, you can have unlicensed legal advice, but when it comes to actual legal procedures and lawyering, we call that a firma. Sign all of the papers. You tend to need a lawyer, as someone who is licensed to practice in any country. But now this is interesting because even the academic path for someone to become a legal professional or an academic professional in Central Europe tends to be very different. You also have habilitation when it comes to academia. You have applicacja. I'm going to ask you about applicacja in a while. So I'm quite surprised that it is more open when it comes to voluntary and alternate a means of dispute resolution. So I want to ask you first, how did you got involved with that? Because most people when they think about lawyers, they say, "Oh, I want to become a criminal lawyer, or I want to become I don't know, something else, like more dramatic uh, paths for the legal profession." Why companies and why arbitration?
Well, arbitration is not the only thing I'm doing. I'm trying to resolve problems of my clients. I'm trying to help them with getting through their problems, and arbitration is one of the tools that serve to resolve the controversies that my clients have. It's same tool as mediation, or same tool as a litigation in a public court, in the open court, or negotiation with the other party. I try to help my clients in the most effective resolution of their disputes. And basically the arbitration became a very interesting tool, competitive to the open court. That's why I'm there. That's why I'm trying to show my clients that this is basically what will help to further their goals, and it's a more effective way of resolving dispute than the open court.
But back to the question, why become like a business lawyer instead of any of the other um, paths you can take when you become like a legal professional? Why now go like into something more international, or human rights, or criminal law? Why business?
It's interaction between businesses and creating value is an interesting field, and new technologies were always appealing to me as a something where there are no written rules, where there is no precedent. I like to work at that boundary of law where you try to apply legal rules to business models that were not present yesterday. Basically, when you try to think about software implementation and different methodologies to implement software that try to combine like well-established institutions of a civil contract law, or try to think about, name any of the buzzwords, blockchain, NFT, ES, SaaS, or what's the newest, AI, right? And try to figure out which legal institution will be the best description of one of those new elements. I think it's basically intriguing how to name, how to describe with the tools that we have, tools that were actually maybe were developed by in the Roman Empire often. How to try to describe the those concepts that are new for business.
Yeah, sure. I mean, especially because Poland tends to be quite open to the use and to the establishment of new technologies in business. And I mean, unlike many other countries who tend to be lagging behind, Poland has adopted technology quite easily. And this is something that surprised me since I arrived here, is that everything is just so connected and so efficient that there must be a strong legal framework for everything to be, smooth and it just working great. So maybe the work you're doing is part of the reason Poland tends to be so, technological indeed. I mean, I don't know what's the situation. I was in France a mere week ago. France still feels a little like lagging behind. They're not as connected. Like I was in a very old town, so I know that maybe that had influenced it. But in Poland, even like if you go to any town in, I don't know, in like lesser Poland, or even like further east, further west, you're going to feel like everything still is connected. So maybe this is just a comment. I am actually amazed of how is that's working. Maybe, I mean, the work you're doing trying to implement law to solve any issues that may arise over the use of new technologies is part of why Poland is like going at a faster speed.
I cannot claim that I contributed to that result. No, my work is too small. That's the result of great work that Poles do, and how they are innovative and how they are open and maybe even hungry for new technologies. And let me joke and I have no proof to that. So let's keep it as a joke. That's since because before 1990 we're locked out from the modern world. After 1990, we had to catch up so quickly with everything that we implemented that IT everywhere, and we got it newer than the guys on the West have, because they like, you know, they had it a bit more dated. But let's keep it as a joke.
All right. Given that we're having like 10 minutes left, I wanted to go to a different topic, completely unrelated, given that we're talking about like information technology and law, and that is about like all of your adventures and the expedition cooperative. First of all, how did you become involved in that? What was your driving force? You told me that you had like something of a hunger for adventure, maybe since your university days, but how and why? I mean, for me, it would be normal because, you know, living right in the middle of the Andes and having the Amazonian forest like 2 hours next to my house back in Ecuador, it would have been easier. But for someone living in Poland, I know that Polish people love to hike, but maybe you know, at one moment you say, "Oh, I love hiking so much that I want to go to like the most extreme places in the earth."
There's certain things that I guess you can't understand, that you can't explain, maybe not understand, but explain. And some people are more receptive to music and like going to live concerts. Some people are more receptive to paintings and like to spend time in museums, and some are more open to adventure and photography. And I always was curious. I wanted to explore. I wanted to see, to do more and see new things. That was my driving force from the very beginning, from when I was a kid, and that just developed. Thankfully, it was easy to travel. It wasn't like before 1990 again, that travel was not an obvious thing. Travel outside of Poland, and when I was growing up, it was possible and wasn't that expensive. Already cheap airlines existed, and I could start traveling, and that's basically gradually developed into a bigger thing. Step by step, you start from sailing in the local lake, and you end up sailing in the Arctic regions and Antarctic regions of the world, right?
So, well, given that you mentioned the Arctic regions, what has been the furthest and the most extreme place you've ever been in your trips?
As a joke, I could probably name one of the American cities or one of Polish cities. It's question about extreme place. I think it's difficult to call place extreme. I mean, I try to plan with my team. We try to plan everything very well. So our contingencies have their own contingency plans. So of course, always bad things can happen, and an adventure can often result from being not sufficiently prepared. But we usually are. The furthest south I went was around Cape Horn. The furthest north I went was just shy of 80° north, next to the ice barrier. But that's like, you know, it's just numbers. There are places on Earth, and that's where you travel, with whom you travel, and what you try to achieve. I believe is important, not how far you went. Everybody with modern technology, probably there's thousands of people who went further than I went. I mean, you can go on icebreaker and reach North Pole these days, right? Or be even airlifted to the North Pole and just do the last degree on skis, or arrive by airplane to the Antarctica with Antarctic operations and logistics. I mean, it's all possible. So it's not. I don't believe it's a matter of going further. If I were traveling to the outer space, probably I could boast that I went somewhere. That's unlikely to happen in my life.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe this is the part where I can try to combine both of your passions, with would be law and adventure. Do you think there's some similarity in like being a lawyer in Poland and, you know, trying to travel and explore all of these parts of the world. Is there something in common between the two?
I believe so, yes. The fact that I like to practice law in new technologies and try to resolve disputes, I think that resonates with my craving for adventures, because basically practice of dispute resolutions within new technologies is adventure in itself. I mean, you're trying to deal with obstacles that appear in front of you, and you're trying to deal with matters that were not resolved before. You cannot look into a book and see that in 1920 we had already resolved the case related to software implementation in the cloud model. That didn't happen, right? If there is if the case I would be working on was already described in one of the scholarly articles or books, it's probably a case I will not be doing for the second time. I mean, I'm not working with those cases, and that need for adventure and curiosity is similar to what I do with trying to go further with my photography adventures.
So, but the main central objective of your adventures is to trying to capture those places, to capture those moments for photography, right? Or is it just, to being there, to explore yourself, the place? Because sometimes for me it happens that I go to a place and I try to take pictures, of course, but I feel so involved in the moment that I forget about the pictures. So maybe that also happens with you, or you try to go there and just to capture the moment in which you are there and to try to see all of the elements.
I like the beauty of still pictures. I like paintings. I like beauty of still pictures. That's to some extent, I mean, they're like 2D description of the world. So I do enjoy, but often, yes, photography is an excuse to travel in a great company of like-minded people and just enjoy the travel, this experience of being out there, experience of having to face unknown on the following day, and resolve problems and challenges that are out of ordinary. In everyday life, we just follow schematics and we walk on paths that are well established. And when I'm on my adventures, there are no rules, there are no paths that were walked before, and that's what I really enjoy: experience of being in great company and resolving challenges that we face.
So in general, you would see yourself both as a lawyer and as an adventurer, as I'm trying to find the right word. I would call you a rule breaker because that would go against the spirit of the law, but more of an innovator, or someone who just is going always for the new, always for, like, a visionary. You would be a visionary in a sense, both as a lawyer and as an explorer. Do you agree with this?
That's interesting. Thank you. But I think that's a very strong word to be a visionary. I think I don't have sufficient experience to be a visionary.
Yet. Who knows? But I mean, it's fascinating because, at least in my context back in Latin America, and especially in the Spanish-speaking world, most people tend to be very focused only on one side of their lives. They try to be like a very good lawyer, and they tend to be very urban people, very focused only on follow the rules, follow the procedures. Or people who are like very into adventure, very into nature. They tend to be very free, but at the same time not as organized as more ordinary people. So seeing the combination of the two is really, I mean, something that I think I could only find in Poland. Poland has been quite a surprise for me. So I'm open to see those combinations more often here than I could have ever seen them back in Latin America. Well, it's already 40 minutes, so thank you very much. Any last words for our audience?
Well, thank you for having me, and I strongly encourage you to find alternative to your main activity, because that alternative will contribute to the main activity, whether it's law, it's business, it's economics, psychology, or being a doctor. Whatever you do, just drawing the energy from another source will just help you be better in what you do in one of the areas, and those two will at certain moment just start to reinforce themselves and make you better in both.
Right. Thank you very much. And well, those were great words to finish the interview. Thank you, everyone, and see you next time.
Thank you for having me.